Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Nation official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and gives this video a thumbs up. The Forrester Mansion loomed under the Los Angeles night sky, its grand chandeliers casting a warm glow against the darkened hills. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The moment everyone had been waiting for, the revelation that would shake their world, had finally arrived. Brooke Logan stood in the center of the living room, her hands trembling as she clutched a glass of red wine. Ridge Forrester, her on-again, off-again love, stared at her with unreadable eyes. "You need to tell them, Brooke," Steffi Forrester said, arms crossed, her stance firm and unrelenting. Brooke hesitated, looking around the room. Every member of the Forrester and Logan families had gathered, drawn by the promise of a long-hidden truth. "Enough with the suspense," Thomas Forrester growled. "Just spit it out." Brooke exhaled sharply and turned to Eric Forrester, the patriarch of the family, who sat in his chair, his wise eyes narrowed. "Eric, the truth is, the reason everything has been spiraling out of control lately, the reason our family has been falling apart, it's because of something I did years ago." Gasps rippled through the room. Ridge took a step forward. "What did you do, Brooke?" She closed her eyes for a second before uttering the words that would change everything. "I faked the DNA test results. Ridge, Thomas is not your son." A stunned silence filled the room before it erupted into chaos. "What the hell are you talking about?" Thomas yelled, his voice cracking. "You're lying." Steffi's face turned pale. "No, that's impossible." Ridge staggered back, his world spinning. "Brooke, this has to be some kind of sick joke." "I wish it were," she whispered, tears slipping down her face. "But I changed the DNA results years ago because I was afraid of what the truth would do to this family. I couldn't let Stephanie Forrester destroy my life, so I lied." Eric stood, his face dark with anger. "Then whose son is he?" Brooke looked at Thomas, her heart breaking. "Your real father is—" Before she could say the name, a loud crash came. From the hallway, a shadow moved, and then, boom! The mansion's doors burst open, flames shot up in the distance, and the sound of an explosion rocked the estate. The force sent everyone reeling, glasses shattering, paintings falling from the wall. The smoke cleared. A figure stepped inside. It was Taylor Hayes. "I told you the truth would come out one way or another," she said, her voice eerily calm. "But I never thought it would be you, Brooke, who finally cracked." Steffi ran to her mother. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Taylor gave her daughter a sad smile. "I had to return, because I know exactly who Thomas's real father is." Everyone froze. "Enough with the suspense," Thomas shouted, his eyes wild. "Tell me who he is." Taylor exhaled. "It's not Ridge. It's—" At that moment, another explosion shook the mansion. The windows shattered, and in the distance, sirens wailed. "We've seen Carter, the ever-present good guy, settle into the main office with no regard for its former inhabitants during the last few weeks." It was difficult for many fans to watch Hope and her partner take over Forrester Creations. This was particularly true for people who spend a lot of time complaining about what they perceive to be the Logan ladies' hostile takeover of the show. On social media, people have asked, how do you have Forrester Creations without a Forrester in charge? To be honest, it does feel a little absurd. I wish there had been some discussion about a reaction to the coup. Why hasn't Bill been publicly disparaging the company on Ion Fashion? Yes, because he is occupied conversing with his adolescent inmate guest. More about that shortly after his week. Carter began to feel bad about what he had done to Ridge, in particular, and the Forrester family in general. By the end of the week, he was urging Hope to apologize, partly because Brooke had been quite euphoric following a conversation with Steffi. The breaking point, hysterically, appeared to be Eric's stapler. Was that the first time Carter had ever opened his desk drawer? And why did he feel more guilty about the stapler than he did about all those photos of the Forrester family? By the end of the week, he was urging Hope to apologize, partly because Brooke had been quite euphoric following a conversation with Steffi. The breaking point, hysterically, appeared to be Eric's stapler. Was that the first time Carter had ever opened his desk drawer? And why did he feel more guilty about the stapler than he did about all those photos of the Forrester family that were on the cupboard behind his desk? Steffi changed her mind about her idea to have Daphne seduce Carter while all of this was going on. Rather, she allowed the walking olfactory nightmare to play on his developing. Other than Days of Our Lives are quite good at that kind of thing. Due to their advanced taping schedule, there is a 9-month waiting period before any adjustments are made, which is what they are currently doing. Although I'm not positive, I can't help but hope that Carter will sign the paperwork back to Ridge. I'm sick and weary of Ridge and Taylor hanging around at the mansion all day. Hopefully, Carter will give Brooke at least some credit for his choice, if and when he decides to change his mind. In my ideal situation, Ridge rushes back to Brooke and begs for her pardon, only to be turned away. She ought to respond, "Shame on you, fool me once. Shame on me, you have deceived me 453,236 times. You can stay with Taylor. Hopefully, removing Luna from Bill's sphere of influence will be the next step if they are truly upending everything." Even the most devoted viewer's patience has been put to the test by this tale, which has seriously damaged one of the show's strongest characters. It is completely nonsensical. Will Bill hang out in his living room for the remainder of Luna's life? Finn comes next, for several reasons, including the fact that it made sense, at least in part. I was completely on board when it was initially suggested months ago that he might be Luna's father. But now I don't understand where this is meant to lead. Luna will essentially have to return to prison once her hiding place is found, right? There doesn't appear to be much ditto Luna crush on Will when she is linked to Finn, and hence his similarly violent mother, Sheila. What's the point? Perhaps Bill will need to wake up and send his house guest back to jail after realizing that she is staring at one of his boys. She appears to be redeemed by the authors. But how? Even admitting, somehow, that she didn't kill Tom and Hollis wouldn't help at this point, because while living in luxury, she is complaining and displaying almost no guilt. Since Luna first arrived, I have loved Lisa Yamada, but I don't think this character can be saved positively. The weekend teasers showed that Remy would not only be coming back, but he would also find Luna at Bill's house. I can't believe Ivy's jewelry line was introduced without her appearing on screen, so perhaps this is going someplace after all. Instead, they clarified that she was away conducting press interviews. Furthermore, why do they act as though Forrester has never had a jewelry line? Has Quinn's work been forgotten by all? Over the years, I've written a lot about the sluggish, repetitious speech in this show. However, Tuesday's episode was breathtaking, even by the high standards we've come to expect from Bold and Beautiful. Nothing occurred at all. Finn began the episode by expressing uncertainty about how to tell Steffi the truth, and he concluded by promising to do so the following day, which of course he didn't. We heard filler in between, with different persons discussing Luna's transgressions. When Taylor cautioned Steffi, "If you're not careful, it's too easy to fall into old patterns while standing next to Ridge," I laughed out loud. I can't define irony, but I know it when I see it, says Reality Bites. No one cared to mention that it was Valentine's Day until the episode that actually aired on the holiday, even though the majority of the week was spent on the same day. Nevertheless, Will's gift to Electra was a cute plush animal that felt like what a true teenager would give to a girlfriend. Speaking of presents, Carter made Hope a particular piece that was, I'll be nice and say, clunky. Was it candy? 2. Aside from the obvious significance of his broken heart, why did it break so easily? Thanks for watching. If you likes this video, do not forget to subscribe my channel and do not miss any update. The evening sky stretched over the small town of Fairhaven, the last rays of sunlight casting a golden hue over the rooftops. Hope Sinclair sat by the window of her modest bookstore, flipping through the pages of an old novel, her fingers tracing the worn edges with familiarity. She had always found solace in books, the worlds they opened up, the characters that felt like friends. But tonight, her mind was far from the comfort of fiction. Her phone buzzed against the wooden counter. With a sigh, she picked it up, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the name displayed, Carter Dawson. The name alone was enough to send a rush of emotions through her, a mix of nostalgia and fury battling for dominance. She hesitated before answering. Carter. Hope. His voice was smooth, carrying that familiar warmth that once made her weak. I need to ask you for something, she scoffed. Figures. You always do. A brief silence filled the air. I deserve that, he admitted. But this is important. Hope clenched her jaw. The last time Carter had asked for something, it had been her heart, and like a fool, she had given it willingly, only for him to leave, chasing ambitions that didn't include her. What do you want? She asked, bracing herself. I need you to come to New York. She nearly dropped the phone. Excuse me? I need you here, just for a few days. His voice carried an urgency that unsettled her. She laughed bitterly. You have some nerve. Carter, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Why should I help you? Her voice was sharp, her patience unraveling. Because, he hesitated. It's about my mother. Hope's breath caught in her throat. Carter's mother, Evelyn Dawson, had always been kind to her. She had been like a second mother, even after Carter had walked away. What's wrong? She asked, softer now. She's sick, really sick. Hope's anger faltered. Carter, She asked for you. He interrupted. She wants to see you. Hope swallowed hard. Evelyn had been nothing but wonderful to her. The thought of her being unwell sent a wave of sadness through her. Fine, she said after a long pause. I'll come. Hope arrived in New York 2 days later. The bustling city, a stark contrast to her quiet life in Fairhaven. The cab ride to the Dawson estate felt surreal, memories flooding her mind at every turn. When she finally arrived, the massive house loomed before her, as grand and intimidating as she remembered. Carter was waiting at the entrance, looking as effortlessly handsome as ever. His dark hair was slightly tousled, his hazel eyes holding a mixture of relief and guilt. Thank you for coming, he said. I'm not here for you. She shot back, brushing past him. Inside, she found Evelyn resting in her bedroom, her once vibrant features now pale and frail, but her eyes lit up when she saw Hope. My dear girl, Evelyn whispered, reaching for her hand. Hope smiled, squeezing her fingers gently. I'm here. Evelyn sighed, content. I've missed you. I've missed you too. Carter stood by the doorway, watching silently. Hope felt his gaze, but refused to acknowledge it. Over the next few days, she spent hours by Evelyn's side, reading to her, talking about old memories, pretending, just for a little while, that nothing had changed. But every time Carter entered the room, tension thickened the air. One evening, as she stepped onto the balcony for some fresh air, Carter followed. "I owe you an explanation," he said. Hope scoffed. "You owe me a lot more than that." No, he admitted. "Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life." She turned to face him, her eyes blazing. "And yet, you did it anyway. I thought I was doing the right thing. I wanted to give you the life you deserved." Hope shook her head. "Don't you dare pretend it was for me. You left for yourself." Carter exhaled. "You're right, I was selfish. But I never stopped loving you." Hope's heart clenched. "You don't get to say that." He stepped closer. "I'm saying it because it's the truth. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it to you. If you let me." Hope searched his face, looking for deception. But all she saw was regret and love. The war inside her raged on. But one thing was certain. Carter Dawson had just reopened a wound she wasn't sure would ever heal.